literally like 300 young college-age women like lined up, no masks, of course, waiting to go into, this bar.
One line will have 300 girls, one line will have 300 dudes, and they're going to separate places.
Really?
Junior high school.
What is
Every
that?
time.
That's
I don't
bad
know.
math.
That's very, very bad math.
That was a heteronormative joke, but it was still funny.
I'm Rhodes Bailey, and welcome to the Asylum South podcast. With me today is Lauren Manning Candy,
Hey, y'all.
Chris Kinney.
Hey, guys.
We've got Mike McCauley and Jessica Lathan
Hi.
over on the Red Couch. Today on the podcast, we have Dr. Jermaine Johnson. He is a South Carolina House of Representative from District 80, right here in the Midlands. Also in the news, the South Carolina Republican Party censured Tom Rice, the representative from Myrtle Beach, who represents South Carolina's 7th Congressional District. He voted on January 13th to impeach Donald Trump for his actions and or inaction during the insurrection on January 6th. So Representative Rice pushed back against the censure coming from his own party, saying he voted his conscience and that he felt some in the GOP have, quote, forgotten their very own creed, which states, I will never cower before any master save my God. And to add insult to this injury, Representative Rice wasn't even given notice of the meeting where his party voted for censure. So how did we get to this spot? What does the Republican Party stand for when it turned so quickly on him?
Nada.
Well, it's no surprise that that the hosts on this show are Democrats primarily, but we're interested in all kind of political discussion, especially from members of the Republican Party that would like to come in and talk about this vote and talk about where they think the Republican Party is today. I know a lot of smart Republicans that have some some views. I'd like to hear from them.
I'd like to hear from a member of Congress who, was almost assassinated by the mob that was sent to the Capitol and then came back in and continued to, vote against the certification for the Electoral College or vote against impeachment. I mean, if you cannot stand up to the man who had you, almost had you assassinated, who can you stand up to?
Well, and it's funny because Tom Rice is anything but a threat to conservatism.
Right.
I mean, it makes no sense that the GOP are going to eat their own with Tom Rice, and that just shows that currently there is a cult of personality thing happening over, party ideology.
Well, and it's not just Tom Rice. I mean, it's happened to some of the others also. They're getting these censures for, doing their job and trying to uphold the rule of law.
I heard that his wife was behind it, that a major motivating factor in Rice's decision to vote to impeach was because his wife was so upset about it.
Smart man listens to his wife.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's right.
That's
Do
right.
what she says.
Yeah.
I think we might discuss that a little bit later in the show.
Maybe we can get him on.
Marital Advice.
Yeah.
I wish there was a Republican Party. Republican Party we grew up with does not exist.
I know.
Maybe a handful of people are, still believe of real conservatism. The rest of it's just Trumpism now, and that's just not sustainable.
No, absolutely. Who would have thought we would have missed the Republican Party of the Bush years or the Bob Dole years?
Nobody looked happier at the Biden inauguration than George W. Bush. Yeah. He's like, I'm back. Y'all love me. You missed me
You
now.
forgot all the stuff I did.
That's right. Yeah.
Two big winners of the Trump presidency in history, George W. Bush and Richard Nixon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just look great by comparison, both of them.
All right, so I learned something today, and I was excited to share it with y'all. It's super nerdy, and it's about math, and
Ooh.
Actually,
Andrew Yang math.
I'll actually start out with how I got here, and this was a podcast, the Ezra Klein podcast. Like a good dorky Democrat. I listened to Ezra Klein, and he has a new podcast now that he's moved over to the New York Times. But his guest was a scholar named Zeynep Tufekci, if y'all are familiar with her. But she's a sociologist at UNC Chapel Hill, and she has a record of having been right about a lot of things pertaining to the pandemic. And She taught me a lesson in that podcast that I wanted to share with y'all because I read an article this morning about McMaster and Spearman holding a press conference about trying to get kids back in school, and it reminded me of what I had just learned, and that is that we do not understand exponential growth. And I'm going to start by asking y'all a question. Okay, imagine you're offered a deal at a bank where your money doubles every 3 days. If you invest just $1 today, roughly how long will it take you to become a millionaire? A year, 6 months,
Isn't this why we went to law
100
school,
days?
so we don't have to do
So that is definitely why I went to law school, Mike.
So $1 doubles every day.
Every day or every 3 days?
Every 3 days.
Every 3 days.
Every
Oh,
3
that's
days.
yikes!
Oh, yeah.
Throwing that odd number in there now. Now you might as well ask me to do
Because
calculus.
I was going to get it right when it was every day. But
there
now
are
that it's every
lawyers who
third
can
day, I have to rethink it.
There are plenty of lawyers who can divide by 3.
Yeah,
I'm very good at that.
that's an excellent lawyer joke.
So the answer is 60 days. And so, obviously not nearly as long as you probably thought. But
Right.
so there was a quote in the article that I read this morning from McMaster, and it says, "It is clearly the older people who are at risk, and we are not going to take a single vaccination from those who are likely to die from this virus to give it to someone who is not likely to die from the virus. It would be unethical and immoral to do that." So I actually thought that was true a week ago before I listened to this podcast and learned about exponential growth. And my thinking was essentially a linear progression as opposed to an exponential. And now I think that we actually shouldn't be focusing just on vaccinating old people, that we should instead be focusing on who is spreading
right.
the virus.
Right.
Because I had been under the assumption that a more lethal virus was a bigger danger than a more contagious virus, because we keep hearing about these new strains that they're not as deadly, but they're more contagious, and I assumed that was a good thing, and it's not. This woman has taught me that if you actually look at an exponential progression, that a whole lot more old people are going to die with the exponential spread of a less deadly virus than with a deadlier virus.
You'd rather have Ebola than COVID.
Yes, absolutely.
That's essentially
That's exactly
shorthand, right?
That's
Right.
exactly
Ebola
right.
is more manageable.
Right. If a disease is too deadly, it kills people too fast to spread.
Right.
But
Right.
if the disease is just damaging or not super deadly, it can spread to a lot of people faster before they drop dead.
That's right.
And no, what you're saying under your theory, which is really interesting, you're saying that if we only focus on vaccinating elderly folks or at certain at-risk populations, then we're not focusing on the people that are spreading them.
Right.
Therefore, we might want to focus it all around so that we make sure we stop spreading so that the at risk are less at risk.
Well, this has come up in the context of educators and
Yeah.
people saying, well, the educators should be a higher priority. And I think about people like my parents who have had the first vaccine. I'm grateful for that. But the likelihood that they're going to spread this thing is extremely low. Now, old people who live in a community home, like, those ought to be the top priority, and I'm sure that they are. But it's like after that, I don't think that the priority should be every person who's over the age of 65. I think, maybe you split it. Maybe you focus half on
attacking it at
Right.
two fronts. Protect vulnerable population, but at the same time attack where it's spreading.
Right. And what this scholar talked about was how in Western civilization, we think about medicine on an individual basis rather than the whole the population as a whole. Like, so we can't wrap our heads around pandemic thinking because we're thinking on a case-by-case basis.
With us today is Dr. Jermaine Johnson, representative in the South Carolina House of Representatives, District 80, which covers southern and eastern Richland County and also part of Kershaw County. Dr. Jermaine Johnson, okay, first of all, Jermaine, I will ask if I can call you Jermaine as a friend.
Please do.
How can I say Dr. Representative or Representative Doctor? What's the best way of doing that?
People have been giving me all different types of titles because, I used to be the chair of the Young Democrats Black Caucus and the vice chair of the Young Democrats of Central Midland. So they just put all the names together and say Chair Dr. Representative Vice Chair Johnson. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many titles, but Jermaine is just fine. I always just say, just call me Jermaine.
Well, Jermaine, I first met you on the campaign trail when I was running for State House, and I lost my race by 200 votes, but you actually won. Now you're doing great things for our state, and we're really excited to have you out there. Tell us a little bit about your district, House District 80.
So it covers a lot of Lower Richland. If you're coming down, or if you're familiar with Richland County, if you're coming down Garner's Ferry Road, I have pretty much everything on the left-hand side, and Winnie Brawley has pretty much everything on the right-hand side until you get to Horrell Hill, and then I have everything on both sides. You go all the way down to the Sumter Bridge, and then you follow straight on up. If you did a straight line, it'll go all the way up into Kershaw County, got a little bit of Lugoff, and have majority of Elgin. So I have a very, very diverse community, very diverse district. Have Republicans, have Democrats, have independents, black, white, and everything in between. So it kind of assists me because I'm a very my life experiences has allowed me to be relatable to all different types of individuals. So it just allows me to utilize my strengths to really relate to everybody I have in my district.
Well, can we talk about your background for a second? Because some people know you as the basketball star at the College of Charleston, my alma mater, College of Charleston. But tell us about your background. Tell us how you ended up here.
Yeah, so, I pretty much lived all over the United States. I was originally born in Los Angeles, California. Well, Hollywood to be exact, before Hollywood was Los Angeles. So, it joined in with Los Angeles. It's separated now. It's got its own city. But, I was from there, and I grew up, I guess I lived there for about 15 years of my life. I went through all the trials and tribulations of a young person living in the inner city, homelessness and just poverty and trying to make it through the crack epidemic, because I was born in '85, and that's when it was really hitting hard in Southern California. And, I kind of made it out because I fell in love with basketball. I had an AAU basketball coach who said, Jermaine, we want to just get you out of your environment. We want to take you away from this type of stuff. And so, with that, he kind of sent me to a prep school up in upstate New York. And when I went to upstate New York, this is the first time I ever saw anything different. This is the first time I had ever seen stars in the sky. It's the first time I had ever seen snow before. I saw all different types of things, but I also learned that my history and the things that I had been going through, my reality was not the reality of everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I started to see that, man, I didn't have to live in the environment that I had. I didn't have to, grow up the way that I had to grow. I didn't have to, succumb to that type of lifestyle. So I started to do some different things. From that point on, I never wanted to go back to California. Aww. I never wanted to go back because, I had so many new experiences that I liked better than what I came from.
That's great. And you were how old when you moved to upstate New York?
Oh, I had just turned 16. God. And the story behind that, so the day I went to upstate New York was September 10th, 2001.
Oh my God!
You know what happened on September 11th? So I left. On. I took a red eye. So I left at 11 a.m. 11 p.m. on September 10th. So I landed at about 6 or 7 a.m. that morning, and I had at JFK, and I had just gotten out of the city right before the planes hit the towers.
Wow!
And by the time I got to my school, people were running out of the buildings talking about, oh, they just bombed the Pentagon. They just bombed the Pentagon. And I'm like, what happened? Because I'm on, I was traveling that entire time. Wow. So I had no idea what was going on.
And this is the first time you've ever left Los Angeles. And then the first place you arrived, yes, they're telling you that New York City is under attack.
Yes, wow. New York City was under attack. And it was unbelievable, man, that, so people were hadn't talked to me. So they were thinking that it was one of the planes was my plane that had got, taken over and hijacked. So, I had to call everybody and let them know that I was safe and I was okay. But it was just a scary time, man.
Wow. Wow. Well, so you graduated from that school, and eventually you went to College of Charleston. Go Cougars, right?
Go Cougs.
Hey, I've got two things I want to say. One, my friend Bridget Batelli, who was a student government.
Bridget, she is awesome.
She loves you. And she was like, my friend Jermaine, you got to give him a holler for me. Also, Jermaine and I were at College of Charleston before cougar had this other meaning. It just to be our team.
What's that?
Yeah.
What's that?
We're not going to discuss.
I just want to play old man for a second.
After the podcast.
Cougar just used to mean the College
an
of
animal.
Charleston.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you were now at College of Charleston. You were captain of the basketball team your senior year, right?
Yeah, I was.
And TD Arena, which y'all don't know, but it was, for those of you that aren't in Charleston, TD Arena, it was a really big deal when it got built.
Yes.
And it opened in 2008. And you were one of the only 4 players in CFC history with more than 1,100 points and 850 rebounds. But you also were the person who scored the first points in the brand new arena.
Yes. So, and it was crazy because they recruited me, telling me that I would be playing in this new arena my first year at the College of Charleston.
Bait and switch.
Took about 5 years before I got that new arena. But I was also the very first Rookie of the Year in College of Charleston history as well. So awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool, man. I go back to the school and I see my records on the wall and stuff like that, and it's just a cool thing. But I was able to make the first free throw ever at TD Arena, so
That's
it's pretty cool, man.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
Did you time that so it would happen exactly that way?
No, I didn't. I did that, but I was like, dang it, man. So but when I got my 1,000-point, a lot of people were like, because I didn't get it. We had an away game, and I was like at 996 points or something like that. And I missed a couple layups, and people were thinking that I snubbed those two so I can get my 1,000-point at home at the College of Charleston. But yeah, man, I didn't time it, but it happened that way.
And then after you graduated from College of Charleston, what'd you do?
So after that, I got drafted to the NBA D-League. I played professional basketball for about 6 years after that. I played in Mexico first after I had left the NBA D-League. And then after that, I played in Portugal. I played in Brazil, and I played in Canada. But I spent a couple of seasons down in Mexico, though. But my favorite place, obviously, was Brazil. I mean, it was just amazing, man. You get off the airplane, and these birds and animals that you only see on TV, like you just see them in the wild there in Brazil. Like I saw a toucan, and I was like, does that belong to a zoo somewhere? Like it's just here in the trees. And I was like, oh no, these are just natural birds that are just flying around. I'm like, oh my god, it's a toucan. I was like, I see those on cereal boxes, man.
Well, how did we get so lucky to get you right back here in South Carolina? You've traveled the entire world. What brought you back here?
So I met my beautiful, amazing, smart, just my better half wife at the College of Charleston. And she is the one who was actually originally from Columbia. But, when I came here to South Carolina in 2004, I just, never left. I was just here forever after that. It was like, I'm a South Carolinian now, baby. I was this is where I'm from. But she's originally from up here in Columbia. And so, she was going to school to get her PharmD degree. And she was studying to be a pharmacist. And as I was traveling the world and she was studying here, I was just going and traveling and coming back. And I just never left. I just established my life here.
Well, what first got you interested in politics?
Oh man, I hate politics, man.
Okay, well then let's get to the fun. Let's get to the fun stuff. Okay. Fast forward to a year and a half ago. It's one of the Democratic primary debates, and I was running for state house, and so you would go everywhere where all the Democrats were. Back when we could go out to places pre-COVID, and I saw this just tall dude, just with a grin on his face, cracking jokes. And you had a Yang shirt and
Yang Gang.
Yeah, and Yang Gang. And we started to have an idea of who Andrew Yang was, but this is right before we started blowing up. And Jermaine came up, I'm Dr. Jermaine Johnson. I'm the South Carolina chair for Andrew Yang for president. And then after that, he just attracted a bunch of cool people. All the Yang people I met were really interesting. They were think outside the box kind of people.
Yeah.
And tell us about your time with the Yang Gang.
Oh man, the Yang Gang is awesome, man. Yang, I love them all, man. So when I was first getting involved with a lot of the presidential candidates, I was looking to see who I wanted to support and who I wanted to stand behind. And the first person I really like fell in love with, man, was Cory Booker. I was like, man, this guy is awesome. I was like, man, seriously. Yeah,
Lauren worked for Cory Booker.
Did you? Oh my God, I love that guy, man. I got a picture with him, everything. I was just so excited because he was a former athlete, he was a scholar, all type of stuff. He could speak very well. I was like, man, this guy's amazing, And I even told him when I met him at Allen, I said, listen to Cory, I said, you might be our next president, bro. So I was a supporter of Cory Booker. But I was looking at, the reason why I was supporting Cory Booker. And the reason why I was supporting Cory Booker because he made me feel good. And I was like, man, he make me feel good as a person. He just makes me feel good. But I was thinking about other people. And why do Trump supporters support Trump? Because he makes them feel a certain way. And I said, man, I can't support somebody just because he makes me feel good. I have to, support somebody because they're going to solve some problems and issues and concerns and help, people like me out. So I started doing more research, and I came across this Asian guy to talk about you want to give everybody $1,000 a month. I said,
Cory Booker had baby bonds, though.
He did have baby bonds, but not $1,000 a month UBI. So I said, man. So I started doing more research on Andrew Yang, and I said, man, I got to get behind this guy. He was talking about automation and things like that. And I went to the final straw was I went to the Walmart that's on Gardens Ferry Road here. And I'm walking, it was late night, and I'm walking in the back to go buy a case of water. And as I'm walking toward the back, a robot rolled past me. In my rural community here in Lower Richland. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm looking around like, does anybody else see this robot that's riding around the store? So I asked the employee, I said, hey, what's the robot doing? They said it was cleaning the floors and counting inventory. And I said,
wow.
Man, well, how many jobs is that taking away from people right here in my community, people that look like me, young people that are struggling, young people who just want a new beginning, young people who just want something, right? So I said, man, I've got to be supporting this guy. I've got to. And from then I just started, telling everybody in the Young Democrats about this guy. I was telling everybody about Andrew Yang. And then after that, at the same time, his campaign was calling around here to see if there were any Yang supporters in South Carolina. And Bree Spalding is the one who was like, listen, I got the perfect guy. All he does is talk about Andrew Yang. They called me, and I said, oh, my God. So my wife was pregnant at the time with our third son. And we were in the hospital parking lot. And we were going for an ultrasound. It was like month 9 of our pregnancy. And I'm trying to take her in the hospital, but the Yang campaign is calling me. I'm running through the parking lot screaming like, and the gang wants me. I was so excited. So they asked me, they said, hey, Jermaine, can you help us, with a weekend for Andrew to come down to South Carolina? I said, absolutely, man. I don't need no money. I don't need anything. I'm volunteering. So I set and organized his entire first weekend here in South Carolina, all for free. I organized the meeting with Mayor Benjamin. I organized, all these different rallying events and things at Charleston. Organized a meeting with him and the new president of College of Charleston. And after that, when Andrew was leaving, he called me from his personal cell phone and was like, listen, Jermaine, I have to hire you. He said, everybody knows you. Everybody loves you. He said, I've got to hire you. I've got to have you, running my campaign. And then from there, man, everything just kind of took off.
Hey, Rhodes, I've got some licks.
Some licks?
Yeah, some hot guitar licks I need to lay down. Do you know where I could record them?
Well, as a matter of fact, Jessica, I do. The Jam Room studio is the absolute best place to record music in Columbia. They have all the best gear and sound engineers to help you get the sound you want.
You say they have the best gear, but do they have a mid-'80s Roland JC120 amp?
Oh yeah, they have that and so much more. You wouldn't believe the selection of vintage guitar amps. Located at 201 South Prospect Street, right here in Columbia. The guys at the Jam Room would love to help you and your hot licks, so give them a call.
Jermaine, I'd be curious to know what you think sort of the legacy of that campaign is, because one of the things that caught my attention about Andrew Yang is for so many years, liberals believed that the way to give folks an opportunity to get ahead is to make sure everybody has a quality education. And there was some research released last year, and the Yang campaign was the only one that appeared to really seize on this. And that research basically said, no. If you want to improve educational outcomes and create opportunity, you raise the income level of the household, because that education starts at home. If mom and dad are worried about putting food on the table, there is no education happening at home because they haven't met those basic needs. That was the first time I really started paying attention to this guy, and the automation, the other things you've described, I think are impressive. What do you think the legacy of that campaign is as we sort of move forward in a Biden administration.
That it's more than just, what the old typical talking points of Democrats are trying to push down your throat all the time. It's more than that. We talk about, criminal justice reform. We talk about housing. We talk about all these different things. But, you can't get any of that if I can't eat at night. I mean, there's plenty of days where, I was coming home and there were no lights on in my house. Or I had no food to eat. And one of the stories that I tell a lot of the young people that I talk to is, have you ever had to cook and eat a frozen hot dog on a candlestick? I've had to do that. Certain things in my life. And I was thinking about, man, what an Andrew Yang presidency would have done for my life. $1,000 a month would have literally changed everything. It would have changed my entire life. So, I start talking about that stuff all the time because I know what a UBI could do for people. It's untaxed income. So now I don't have to claim that, and it's something to where I can now take a chance or seize on an opportunity that's right there in front of me, like starting a business. We know an LLC here in South Carolina is $110. You know how many LLCs I can have in a month? I can all the different ideas. And if it didn't work this month, hey, next month I get to start over brand new. Women who are in domestic violence situations, we know a lot of women stay with these men because it's security. They don't have another way out. They don't have an opportunity. Imagine women who had a UBI every month saying, I don't have to take this crap anymore.
UBI for the listeners.
Universal basic income.
Yeah.
Universal. Yeah. And here's the thing, a universal basic income, like you're discussing, rather than having lower income people wait for tax credits and stuff, it's the same basic thing, except it's something you've got right now.
Yes.
And you can use right now and it's steady.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just a big supporter of UBI, which is why I'm trying to get certain things like that passed here in South Carolina, on a local level to see how we can assist people. We know majority of Americans cannot afford an unexpected $400 bill. We know what happens when your car breaks down. It's never a $50 or $100 bill. It's always like $500, $600, $700. And people just can't afford that. I've had plenty of mentees who say they're going to quit their job because, their transmission went out. So, they can't, now they have no car to get to work. So it's because I don't have a car to get to work. Now I have to quit my job. So you're going to go further and further in the hole. So it's some of these things that we're trying to address that I believe a UBI would have really tackled.
Would you talk just a little bit about, what your strategy was? Because, for example, Rhodes went through like 4 pairs of sneakers, just pounded pavement during his race. But what was your strategy in Lower Richland? It's not all walkable. How do you reach the community?
Oh man! So what I did, and this is the day I announced, 3 days after we went under the COVID stuff. Like it's 3 days later. It's like, oh my God! So I can't do any door knocking. I can't do anything. So I literally was riding my mountain bike throughout all the different communities, throughout all the different precincts. Because you know how Lower Richland is spread out, man. So I had a whole bunch of flyers, and I was, just riding up to people's houses and just dropping flyers off the doorsteps and near the mailboxes and things like that, just dropping flyers off, like doing that. And if anybody was outside, I would say, hey, how y'all doing? I'm Dr. Johnson. I'm running for office. Yeah, you know my people down here? Because everybody's related in Lower Richland. So I'm like, yeah, you know my family, you know my wife, everybody. Yeah, that's auntie, that's my cousin over there. So, we did a lot of that stuff. And, I was a Richland County Recreation Commissioner as well for about 4.5 years. So, a lot of them knew me from all the work that I've been doing at the different parks and all over the community because I've always been an outspoken community advocate. So a lot of them knew me from that. But I did a lot of bike riding. I did a lot of that type of stuff. I called a whole bunch of people, man. I did a lot of phone banking. I had people from the Yang Gang, from literally nationally, people all over the country were doing phone banking for me right here in Lower Richland. It was. I got donations from all 50 states, including
your
Puerto
list.
Rico.
No. You've got an amazing list with thousands and thousands of people, all small dollars.
Yeah, all small dollars, man, from every state and Puerto Rico. I had to call. I was like, man, can I take a donation from Puerto Rico? I was like, is that okay? They were like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, oh my God, so it was amazing. I raised like 20-something thousand in like 3 days. It was just.
That was the first time I really sort of noticed and paid attention to who you are. I pulled your fundraising list and I was like, who the hell is this guy? He's got thousands of small dollar donations from all over the country.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
I'm assuming Andrew Yang sent an email out for you.
And he did that. Yeah, Andrew Yang. Yeah, he sent an email. He sent an email out for me. He did retweeting my stuff, and he came out here. He came out here for me a few times. Yang was really he endorsed me. I was the first the Humanity Forward endorsee for for his organization. I mean, he called me. He said, Jermaine, if we can't endorse you, we can't endorse anybody. So
Andy came to your swearing in, right?
Yeah, he came to my swearing in. Yep.
I was telling somebody, I said, oh, we're gonna have Jermaine Johnson on the show. And they're like, oh, the Yang Gang guy. I was like, yeah. I was like, Andrew Yang came down for swearing in, and they go, oh, was it like a Zoom thing or something? They go, no, Andrew Yang came to
South Carolina.
in South Carolina.
Yeah.
They blew their mind.
It says a lot. It says a lot about who he is as a
Oh
person,
my
too.
God!
Who he is and who
supporter.
Jermaine is.
Yeah, what he believes in you.
Yeah,
right.
he is an amazing person, an amazing supporter of mine. And after my swearing in, we did a special with CNN that'll probably be airing.
Cool.
I think it's gonna be airing next month. But we did a special with CNN and the Kamal Bell.
Oh,
I love him.
Yeah. So, and we're talking about economic disparities and things like that. So we did that at the convention center right after our swearing in. So it was awesome.
make sure you tell us so we can plug it too, so people will watch it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're going to get the word out on this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You know, they might not watch CNN, but once they hear from the Asylum South podcast,
That's right.
You thought Andrew Yang could help you out.
Yeah.
Well, Jermaine, now we're going to do a segment called Marital Advice from a Divorce Lawyer. I got one on retainer. It's my mother, who's been a divorce lawyer since the 70s. So I decided to ask Nancy Bailey, age 68, for some marital advice. How long have you been married, Jermaine?
9 years. 9 years.
9
yes.
years. All right. Well, let's see what the divorce lawyer says.
Mom, what's your number one piece of advice for a successful marriage?
I started to say don't do it, but that's not what you want me to say.
That's okay.
Don't do it.
Don't expect to get more out of marriage than you give.
So it might not surprise you that my mother, who is a divorce lawyer, is one of the most cynical people in the world. But that was actually pretty sweet, legitimate advice there. What do you guys think about that principle? It sounds kind of like it could also be a Hallmark card if I didn't know how negative my mom was.
I don't know that I think it's sweet.
See, that's sweet for my mother. That's extremely sweet.
I mean, I'm serious though. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's I think it's smart. I mean, and reasonable, but I'm not sure I'd characterize it as sweet.
I'm glad that you're here to give me another perspective. Mm-hmm. That's an extremely warm comment from my mother.
I mean, to me, no, but I mean, the bottom line of what she's saying is you gotta do hard work in marriage.
No, practical
Truth.
All right.
Which is true.
Yeah.
All right, here's another question I asked my mom.
Mom, what's the number one behavior that can screw up a good marriage?
One partner becoming too focused on something else and not spending time with the family. For instance, spending all their time doing church work or volunteer work or deer hunting.
Did Dad do a lot of deer hunting?
Deer hunting is the cause of my divorce.
So this is all true. My father deer hunted every weekend, like an hour away from our house, and he finally brought me when I was old enough to come with him, but then still left my mom with my younger sisters. She's not bitter about it or anything. I mean, they're great. They get along great.
Did you already know that? She would say deer hunting?
No. Okay. So I thought here's the thing about my mom. My mom has literally had thousands of divorces, right? And
Not her personally.
No, not her own.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's just sort of like somebody that's like a math genius. You throw a big number in front of them. She just makes all these calculations very quickly. And we'll be at a wedding and she'll be like, this will last about 7 months.
Dang.
I mean, she won't broadcast it. But she doesn't like weddings.
Taking bets.
Yeah. So she goes, well, I think because of XYZ. Like, it's just a calculation. And so I was expecting Mom to, give some sort of answer. I didn't know she was going to go personal with this one on the deer hunting. I figured she would say something about monogamy or infidelity or financial issues. But 26 years later, my mother remembers the deer hunting. So Chris at first was like, deer hunting? I was like, you didn't grow up in South Carolina, man.
No, Very, yes.
I'm married to a deer
contest.
hunter,
Yeah.
and the time commitment is no joke.
You know what?
Yeah, it's a serious thing.
You need to get your camo out, and you need to be following him out there. How's your shot?
join
You pretty
him.
good shot.
Yeah,
I used to go with him, but I just get too cold.
You get up in that deer stand, you're snuggling, you have a couple, you never know what'll
That
happen.
does not
Lauren.
happen.
You never know
He's
what
like,
happens.
shh, be quiet.
Telling your son you were
that smartphone
conceived while
away.
we were deer hunting.
Well, my second mother, my stepmother Bets Bailey, who is just absolutely wonderful, is married to my dad Skip Bailey now, and she went deer hunting with my dad all the time. They were two peas in a pod, so I think everybody's happy, everybody gets along. But anyway, I always think it's fun to talk to an old lawyer because they really just don't care. They'll just say what they want to. I mean, a good lawyer gives bad news for a living. So I mean, that's the truth. You don't.
You
if they
have
tell
to,
you,
you have to get comfortable with it.
if you say things that people like or want to hear, you're not doing your job.
No.
Because if
No.
they've come to you in the first place, it's usually a difficult situation.
No, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, and it's but it's the job is to give bad news.
Well, my wife would always be the one to tell me that I need to like if we had a housekeeper she didn't like. I mean, we don't have a lot of housekeepers, but she'd say, "I don't like this person. I want you to fire him." Because I give bad news for a living.
You're better at this than I am.
It's easy for you.
Oh, yeah.
So I got some pretty good marriage advice that I think y'all will appreciate too. 10 days before Lauren and I were supposed to get married, we had the opportunity to talk to Barack and Michelle Obama. And so I asked them for wedding advice, and Barack didn't miss, the President Obama didn't miss a beat. He looked at Michelle and looked at Lauren and me, and he said, "Just do what she says, man."
That's awesome.
One of the reasons why he's the greatest president in our lifetime.
Yes, man. Yes.
Well, we're gonna play. Do you have time for a quick guessing game, Jermaine, or another silly bit, or do you need to get back?
Give me one more, man, and I can get
Okay.
up out of here, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna be stuck in the house all night.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Friday nights aren't what they used to be, right?
They're
No,
not. They're so not.
Okay, so we are going to talk about the John C. Calhoun time capsule. So last month, crews removing the John C. Calhoun statue in downtown Charleston's Marion Square uncovered the monument's cornerstone, and it held a time capsule that was placed there in June of 1858. So for those of you that haven't spent a lot of time in Charleston, in Marion Square, there was this very tall statue of John C. Calhoun, and he was looking down stern, just pissed off all the time. And Calhoun, of course, was the infamous South Carolina statesman. He was a senator. He was the United States vice president. He was a notorious champion of slavery and father of the nullification doctrine, which, of course, planted the seeds for South Carolina's eventual secession from the United States and the Civil War. So in many ways, he was kind of the godfather of the Civil War, pre-Civil War. And anyway, Charleston decided we're going to take the statue down because it's not under the Heritage Act. It is the city's statue, and it came down. And I think it was obviously the right decision. I think a lot of people agree. But they've got this time capsule under there. It's rumored that there's a lock of his hair. I think maybe some banners at his funeral, a cannonball, just fighter to the end, that guy, I guess. So, what do you guys think is in John C. Calhoun's time capsule?
A Confederate flag.
That would be
Excellent
appropriate.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a can of pomade. How do you get hair to stand up like that?
Yeah,
That's
John
right.
C. Calhoun had some pretty serious standing hair on all his...
That was a main.
It's ahead of his time like that.
Yeah, he and Andrew Jackson didn't get along, but they were both really gnarly, kind of unpleasant people with hair that stood up like they were being electrocuted.
They traded letters secretly about how to keep the quaff.
Yeah, but that was probably made of lard or something
Yeah.
horrible.
Well blubber.
Lard is not horrible.
All right, I've got one. I think he's got Martin Van Buren's codpiece in there. The Little Magician.
I'm not enough of a history scholar to appreciate that.
That just went right over your
Yeah,
head.
totally over my head.
I worked
Sorry.
hard on that.
Yeah. I'm
Well-
going to sit here and give you a polite laugh and have no idea what you're talking about.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah,
Appreciate
note to
it.
self, we have to go home and study Martin Van Buren.
Just Google it.
There are very few places where you can use the term codpiece and it be historically relevant. And I think that's the real achievement here today, Chris.
Thank you.
I think there's a Simpsons episode that probably covers it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Simpsons cover everything.
That's true. There's a Simpsons episode for everything.
I mean, I heard that he liked chess a lot. I think there's a chessboard in there. But John C. Calhoun was terrible at chess. He never learned to play very well because he always insisted that all the squares on the board be white.
You like that one, Lauren?
I laughed too hard on that one, man.
I got you.
Hey, that got me in my soul. Right?
All right, Tonight Show. My name is Rhodes Bailey. You know where to find me.
The guffaw was totally Jermaine that time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just
I knew it was coming. He wasn't expecting it.
Jermaine, can we option a laugh track for you and use it all the time?
That was a solid laugh. That was a solid laugh.
Let's do it, man. Yeah.
Well, Jermaine, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was a really great time, man.
Thank you.
Really great time.
Appreciate y'all having
Thanks,
me.
Jermaine.
Man.
Asylum South was recorded and engineered at the Jam Room Studio in Columbia, South Carolina. Sound engineering by Zach Thomas. Theme music by Rhodes Bailey, Jake Irwin, Evan Simmons, Spencer Collins, and Zach Thomas. Contributors are Rhodes Bailey, Lauren Manning Gandy, Chris Kinney, Jessica Lathran, and Mike McCauley. Find us on the World Wide Web at asylumsouth.com, at Asylum South on Twitter, and on Facebook. Also Asylum South. Subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you like us, please rate the podcast so others can find it. Share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much to Representative Jermaine Johnson for being here. And until next time, this is Asylum South.